Welcome to the Essential Slush How to Clean Your Slush System video. The very first thing you got to do when you want to start cleaning your slush system is to flick it off to the off position, which is just there. The next thing we do is to remove the lid from the top, which is really quite simple. We reach around to the back, disconnect the plug, and lift off the lid. So the very next thing we need to do is remove the bowl. Simple little technique here to remove the bowl is put your fingers down onto the firm surface here with your thumbs up in under the bowl, and then just with a little bit of pressure, just push until it pops up. The bowl then just slides straight off the front. The spiral will just slide straight off. And the seal at the back of the machine, just get your fingers behind it, and off it comes. So these three items will go off to the kitchen into a tub of hot soapy water with a really good thorough rinse, and then we're good to go. So after you've removed your bowl, there are three small parts that also need to go off to the kitchen with you when you go to do your first wash. This here is the front seal. It sometimes comes off with the bowl and sometimes gets left behind. So just make sure that you take the front seal off. The two other parts that you'll need is the drip tray. The drip tray is this part here. The best way to remove this is just to remove the top section first, then the bottom drip tray will just lift up and pull straight out. So the next part we want to do is grab our famous wet cloth and just give everything a good wipe down. You really normally don't need soap for this, just a good cloth with water on it. Give the evaporator here a really good wipe down to get any of the residue off. Right round it, make sure you get all sides, particularly underneath where your hand runs out of room a little bit. And then we want to give this tray area a little wipe down too. You get obviously the condensation and water drip out here, which runs down through to your drip tray. So making sure all this area has been really cleaned out thoroughly and dried. The next part we want to do is make sure with any of the lubricant left on the front, just use a serviette or a tissue and nice clean here, but get all this off. When the machines have been in use, you'll get some black buildup. Make sure you get all this wiped off and clean for when the bowl goes back on the machine. Okay, so now we're in the kitchen ready to wash out the slush bowl. First thing we need to do is make sure that the white seal that's on the inside of the bowl here comes out. So sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, but sometimes it just pops out. There it is there, and into the bowl. So you'll notice that we still have all our lever still in place at the front, just obviously to seal the bowl. So here we will then drop our white seal into the bowl. We're going to fill the bowl with some hot soapy water. So a bit of detergent, hot soapy water. We normally quarter fill the bowl, just enough to begin washing the bowls. Once again, wet cloth. The beautiful thing about these Essential Slush machines is they're round edges just about all the way through the bowl. So giving the bowl a good clean all the way up the top. You will get splash marks and residue from the sugars and the syrups right up to the very top of the bowl. So making sure these have had a really good clean. Getting right around the bowl, all the edges, and to the very back of the edge where you'll also have food grade silicone residue left from here off that rear seal. So a thorough clean, find our little piece in there and give that a thorough wash. And this front edge is the main area we want to just make sure, because obviously it's visible to customers, this very front edge, and it's the only real hard edge of the bowl where you can get some build up. So really get in there and give that front edge a good clean. Once we're done, we'll give it all a good rinse off with obviously fresh water, and then I'll show you how to do the front. All right, the second part before we actually go into rinsing the bowl, where we remove the lever system off the front, is a very important tip. Make sure you grab hold of a plug and put it in the sink. The small parts on the lever system can go down the sink and down the drain if you don't put your plug in, so it's a really important tip. So put your plug in. The next thing we're going to do is just pull out the lever system. The white pin will come out first. It just literally slides out left to right. Your blue lever handle will come straight out, and out she drains. So your other components in here will be that for your lever system. Just let everything drain out, give the bowl a good thorough rinse, wash these four components thoroughly, and then you're good to go. So when it comes to putting everything back together, we'll walk through things. Obviously the first thing to go on is the rear seal. Just straight up to the end of the machine and it fits snugly all on its own. There's really not much you can do wrong here. Once it's on the back there. The next component is our spiral and our front seal. This front seal needs to go into the spiral. Just sits snugly into the front there. And before we put it back onto the machine, what we're going to do is put some food grade silicone around the evaporator here so that this seal gets a really nice tight seal on the front of the machine. So we get our food grade silicone. You just need a little bit onto your front finger, onto your little finger. And then your spiral. You'll notice on the front of the evaporator here, it's got a D shape sort of cut on the front of the machine. So that actually fits into the spiral with a very specific, so sometimes when it goes on, you'll have to just move the spiral around until you feel that it actually pushes right in so that your front seal goes hard up against the evaporator and onto the food grade silicone. Just like that. So when it comes to putting the bowl back on, the first thing we need to do is make sure that this internal seal for the bowl goes in. It will slot into this part here at the front, with the small part obviously to the front. Just sits in the bowl like that. The next thing we're going to do is apply food grade silicone right round this rim of the bowl. So same again, food grade silicone on your finger. Run it right around the edge of the bowl because that's going to seal with that rear seal at the back of the machine. Putting the bowl back on is really straightforward. So now that you've got your food grade silicone, it'll slot snugly up and seal at the back. And with the bowl, getting the feet to go down, they need to clip in under. So again, just put a bit of pressure down, and on this side, bit of pressure and it's in. So when it comes to putting the lever back on, once again, fairly straightforward process. If you look close up here on it, you'll see that little rim. We're going to just put some food grade silicone around that. You don't need a lot. That's the part that will actually seal inside the dispenser. So a little bit of food grade silicone. Doesn't need to be below it, doesn't need to be above it, just around that line. Right, then putting it back into the machine, we've got our spring. The spring just fits snugly on top. And then the whole piece together just slides straight up into the unit. Right. On the front, there's a little section where the lever handle goes. The lever handle will just slot straight into that gap there. In goes the lever handle. Just push it in, and you can actually let go of the whole part there because it will hold itself in. The final thing we need to do is just put the pin in through the side and back through the lever handle. So you'll just have to wiggle that around to line up your lever handle. And once it's in, that'll just pin straight through and it's locked again. And there's your sealed lever handle ready to dispense beautiful slushy. So now the final part, putting your slush machine back together, is just putting the lid back on. The lid typically is obviously in two parts. And if you look closely, you'll see the hinge in the center where steel pin just slots straight into the other side. So you've got a swinging hinge door. The lid then just sits up onto the top of the machine. There's really not much to having it sit on the machine, although sometimes you will see it sits on a slight edge, and all you need to do is just pop that down like that so it sits nice and level and flush on top of the machine. And you can see there the very easy to lift lid, so that when it comes to filling it, you just flip top your lid, fill it from the top, and you're good to go. The final thing you need to do is just reinsert the plug for the light at the back of the machine. If you look closely here, you will see it's a one-way plug. So there's three little inlets and there's a little plug clip on the side. So the plug can only go one way. It just goes into the back, clips in. So that's it. Thanks for watching this Essential Slush cleaning video. All that's left to do now is fill up your bowls, flick on the machine, and enjoy Essential Slush.